Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I am your host, Andrea Miller, alongside a dear, dear friend, Tammy Thompson, and we are so excited to bring this podcast to you. Show Me the Way podcast is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. In this deeply moving episode, I had the privilege of interviewing an incredible woman, Pam Pargen. Pam's story is one of love, loss, grief, and ultimately hope and new beginnings. She and her husband faced unimaginable challenges, yet through it all, Pam's spirit, her heart full of love, and her ability to find joy after pain serve as a true inspiration. I first met Pam through a direct sales company we were both involved with. And while we didn't work closely together, I had the honor of watching her shine. Her story is one that will touch your heart and remind you of the power of perseverance and positivity. Pam also has some exciting things on the horizon that I know you'll love hearing about. I can't wait for you to listen to this powerful episode. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode as we are again interviewing somebody that I had the honor of meeting through the direct sales company that I was at for 4 years. I had the privilege of watching this guest, Pam Pargen, rise to the top of the leaderboard, and I did get the opportunity to hear parts of her story. We were able to participate in a couple of trips together, but didn't really have a lot of personal conversations. I kind of watched from afar and was extremely impressed by everything that she shared, everything that she did, and her amazing spirit and attitude. Pam exudes joy and brightens the room when she enters it. I was thrilled that she and I kept in touch and that she was interested to be a guest. I'm so excited to hear from Pam and learn more about her and share her inner beauty with all of you. So welcome, Pam.
Okay, so you made me cry already. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm very excited to be here.
Good. Yeah, it's been so fun and just having guests from that company because it was an amazing group of women that
Yeah.
we got to work with for a few years. And so still being in contact and being able to have them on this podcast has been really fun. So glad you're part of that group. As you know, the Show Me the Way podcast is all about people sharing stories, times that they thought they were on a particular path and they had to pivot. Like me, I know you probably have several different stories. I know there's some specific things that I have heard. So looking forward to hearing about that. But as we always say, there's no script, just a
Mhm.
conversation where you're sharing your story with us. And I do want to point out that I started this podcast with my partner, Tammy. She was on a few of the early podcasts, but has started some new things. So I'm kind of scheduling and moving forward with her here in spirit. So I just wanted to mention that it's just you and I, but we're good to go with that. And with no further ado, I want Pam to be able to share a time in her life that kind of fits into that show me the way mold.
Awesome. So I'm 57 years old. I am married. I live in Milford, Connecticut. I have entered a time in my life where there's like a huge transition. And actually, that time in my life started about 15, almost 16 years ago now, when my son Jack was born. I had a full career in marketing in Connecticut. I had a great career path. I was in a relationship for about 15 years. I thought we were going to get married and have a little white picket fence and all the things. And turns out it was a very, not physically, but emotionally abusive relationship that finally I was able to pull myself out of at the millennium in the year 2000. And I moved out of town, bought my own house. My job changed. Lots of things happened in my life. I moved to Milford and I met my husband, and we had like the perfect relationship, and it was great. And all of these expectations of okay, I've got the house, gonna get married. And it was 2004 when we got married, and career and house and all the perfect things, a perfect wedding. I had this like perfect thing that was finally going to happen, because for those 15 years of that bad relationship, those are the things that I just longed for. And at this point I was 32, 34 years old. Talk about a long time coming, right? And then I got to this point in time where we were having a really hard time getting pregnant. And we went through lots and lots of fertility, and it became hard. And this part is hard to talk about because I always get very emotional because I truly believe that that's like where my loss began, when mourning of, having the perfect pregnancy in the perfect marriage with the white picket fence and the house. And we were remodeling our house and making everything just the way that we wanted it to be for our next, 50 years. And suddenly, isn't that interesting how it happens? It's just not like that, right? Like life is just not that
Yeah.
way.
So there wasn't an indication that you were gonna have difficulty starting a family. You didn't think that was gonna be the case.
No, absolutely not. And in my generation, I think a lot of people put their careers first, children, family second at that point. And I was very healthy, and had no problems. Never thought that that would happen. It took me about 5 years to get pregnant. I had several miscarriages, which was hard because one of them was very deep into it. So that was another form of loss that I had. Finally got pregnant naturally, believe it or not, with my son Jack. And when he was born, he actually was born with a brain injury. So this is the part of the story where I realized that life is just not perfect, right? He was born not breathing. That night I was told that if he made it through the night, he wouldn't walk, talk, or hold a spoon. They really had no idea why. They don't know what happened. It wasn't an umbilical cord. It wasn't anything. I was completely healthy. I was 39.1. I was full term. I had the flu. I had like a throw up bug that brought me to the hospital and led me a little dehydration, but that was it. And so Jack was born and they revived him and all the things. He spent several weeks, probably about 3 months in the picky. We took him home, brought him back to the hospital. He became our little miracle baby. And one thing that I really love to talk about is that what my husband said to me when I was trying to go through that whole process of what are we going to do? Like, this is not the life that we planned and what we were told was going to happen. Jack was going to be full care. And my husband was like, he is our baby. We're going to take him home. We're going to love him. We're going to cherish him. We're going to do everything that we need to do. Like, let's go. What are we worrying about? And so thank God for that, because that gave me the strength to just like continue on. But as you can imagine, there was some serious loss and grief during that time.
Yeah, so going back, there was no indication before he was born that there was any health issue.
Mm-mm. Nope. And what they determined later, years later, it took us to figure out is that possibly the umbilical cord somewhere got clogged somehow, and then it opened up again. Otherwise, he would have been stillborn. And they still don't know why to this day that it happened. Right. so,
Wow.
so pretty
That's
devastating.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I tell so many people, like, my son has muscular dystrophy. It's almost amazing that there's babies born without something going on, because there are so many things that can go wrong. Some are identified early on, and some you have no idea until the baby's born. It's
Right.
amazing that there are healthy babies born.
Yeah. It certainly is a miracle, isn't it?
For sure.
Hmm.
I love that your husband said that too, because that had to be such a difficult point, and you're also hormonal, you just had a baby, you were going through 5 years of trying to get pregnant,
Hmm.
and you hear this news, but to have a partner like that that says, "No, this is our child, we're gonna do
Hmm.
what we have to do," I think that that was a necessary thing, and it's pretty amazing that you both had the strength for that.
Yeah, and I think that the hardest part of that whole time in my life was the loss. And one of my dear friends, and you know her, Courtney Nine, said to me many years later, 15 years later, that I believe that's where I started my loss. Like, I have been mourning the loss of a typical child at that point in time. So when Jack was born, that's where my mourning began. And of course, as time evolved, and he was the most precious, wonderful, beautiful little baby, and thank God that I had him in my life, and thank God I was able to stay home more with him. And that whole journey, the loss of that typical child was the biggest thing in my life right then. Like, it tore me up. It sent me into a spiral of depression. I don't know if it's anxiety, but just of what's next, like what's going to happen in my world. And I had no idea what was going to take place from there on in. So,
Well, yeah, if you don't mind going back to he was born with that, and then you leave the hospital. You said he was there for a few months, but when you did finally get him home, if you don't mind sharing, what was that experience like?
sure. Well, getting him home was amazing, and he was a typical baby at that point. Once the medical things were taken care of, at that point, we could enjoy him being a typical infant until it was about 10 days after we got home the first time that we got the call from the doctor and said, "You need to bring him back." And that was because he had high calcium, and high calcium could give you a heart arrhythmia and send you into a heart attack. So at that point, our finally we got to take home our infant. We had to bring him back, and that's when he spent another few months in the hospital getting his levels correct and everything. And so that started a journey of back and forth, hospital, not hospital, back and forth for 13 years. And that is what we became accustomed to. And I had a career in marketing where I had to be there and I had to be on site in order to work. I could not work from home. And so trying to balance and manage, and I was the bigger breadwinner in our relationship. My husband owns a very small, modest family business. And we were barely surviving financially. And now we had this house that we put this addition on, and we have a huge mortgage and all of these things. And financially, that almost took us down. And something that I really like to mention here is that, ooh, again, I'm gonna cry. But one of the therapists, we had home care and doctors and nurses and birth to three coming in, and one of the birth to three gentlemen said to me, "Just be careful of your relationship, because 90% of relationships, as you know, Andrea, end in divorce. Those who have a lost child or a medical injury or something like that, special needs children in some ways." So that was really important to me that we made sure that we worked together to do everything that we needed to do, and everything wasn't just put on me, and my husband was amazing with that.
Good. I was actually going to ask about that. I mean, I had the privilege of also meeting your husband, but again, we didn't have too many big conversations,
Right.
but it just the short time I was around him, he just seems like such a wonderful man, and I know all of the ladies that were on those trips with us would agree. But it takes a lot of work, and I think it's really important to look at, if you can, to look at your significant other as a partner when you go through something like this. I know it doesn't always work out that way, and there's no judgment being passed. Sometimes
Mhm.
partners just don't make it work. It just doesn't come together, or it just wasn't meant to work out. But
Mhm.
I don't know what I would do without having a supportive partner throughout my son's diagnosis and all of the things that we've had to do.
Absolutely, I can't imagine doing this alone. I just can't imagine. And I think that's where community really took over for me.
So you continued to work though through a lot of this then?
Yep, so I
Wow.
continued to work for, like, the first maybe 18 months, almost 2 years, because I needed to. We needed to survive, but that again was, like, another huge feat because going into daycares, because he looked like a typical child, but he was behind in everything. Obviously, he couldn't hold his own head up, and there were precautions. And actually, up until he was about 2 years old, he was seizure free. But then when he had his first seizure, that even became more difficult because we got kicked out of daycares because they couldn't handle his medical needs. He was G tube fed, so I don't know if you're familiar with G-tube feedings, but he that's a whole nursing thing unto itself. So he had to go to a very specific daycare, and believe it or not, there aren't any of those. There aren't any of those. So you either have to put him in a special
Mhm.
needs hospital environment where all of his peers would be medically more challenged than him. And then where would he get his stimulation, right? Or we had to find something like a daycare that would take him for who he was. Thankfully, luckily, we found a woman after we got kicked out of like 4 daycares. We found a woman that would take him and learn, and she went through the nursing protocol and everything. And I had to fight the city actually and the state, because this is a state run thing, of daycares and how they're fed. And having seizures, he needed emergency medicine. So they needed to be able to administer that. So she went through the training, luckily, and she had him for like 2 years, I guess, until he got too big. So, like, she had him after school when he went into school and everything. We did place him in a typical school for that environment because Jack was walking just a little bit in a walker where he was at maybe at 4 years old, he was probably like a 2-year-old, 18-month-old, where he could walk in a walker, and he was alert and awake enough to chase the other kids. So that made us our big decision about we need to keep him mainstreamed. So that's what we did. We brought him into typical school, and then went to daycare after that. So maybe I worked for even more than that. You know what? I think I finished work around 2013. Ended working my career.
Okay.
Hmm.
So was he able to speak?
No, no. So he just told us what he wanted with laughing, crying, really. It wasn't even like pushing away or yes or no's. He didn't understand any of that. So he was infantile as far as speaking goes, but he was able to kind of sit up, like a baby, like a baby would, but you still have to hold him.
Okay. And backing up, and I'm sorry for not knowing this or hearing this
Not at all.
before, but um what was the diagnosis? I mean, like you said, they still don't really know what happened,
Yeah.
but when you went to the hospital, like it generally all because of the seizures, or what were things that brought him to the hospital?
Yeah. His diagnosis was HIE, which is hypoxic ischemia. So basically just showing that there was a lack of oxygen in utero before delivery. So somewhere 12 to 24 hours before delivery, he had that lack of oxygen in utero.
Okay, yeah, I kind of rushed you because again, got excited. But
You're
anyway,
good, you're good.
anyway, okay. We're with it now. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yep. So that HIE, that lack of oxygen, is what led to all the slew of all of the other things that had happened. So when you are born with a lack of oxygen, let me just explain a little bit so everybody understands. Like when you're born with a lack of oxygen, like they said, if he makes it through the night, those are because his kidneys would fail, his liver failed, all of the major organs took a hit. His blood levels are all off. Those are all things that could throw him into an event that would make him pass away. So all of those things can regenerate themselves, except the kidneys. And so the kidneys is in the end eventually what took him, because his kidney disease, you can't regenerate that. So that lack of oxygen leading to the kidney diagnosis was the main thing, and all of the other rest of it was really just part of the ischemia.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate you explaining all of that because I'm sure the listeners would want to know more about that. So I appreciate that. Okay, so backing up again, you worked as long as you could and you had some help, which was great. That's awesome that you found the angel that decided to go through the training and spend the time with him. So that is great. But there came a point where you became more of his caregiver then?
Absolutely. So when he was going back and forth in the hospital and out of the hospital, I had to really be available because my husband's business would not afford him to be able to just leave at the drop of a hat to pick him up from daycare or anything that we had to do. So at that point, when my husband wasn't able to do what I needed to do, I said I couldn't hold the job. I was getting paid hourly, and it's a very aggressive career. So I started doing direct sales. And in 2013, I picked it up as a side gig for something fun. And it was a jewelry company. And I absolutely loved it. I was passionate about it. I had no idea I could like go out and have fun and make money at the same time. And then basically, when as a freelancer, you don't get called back, or if you have to leave, I become not reliable. So I needed something to really bring in the bills consistently. So I really ramped up that business, and direct sales kind of saved my life as far as it financially.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So how long did he stay in mainstream schooling?
The rest of his life. So I guess we should tell our listeners that he did pass away 2 years ago.
Yes, yes.
So Jack passed away 2 years ago, June 30th, and he was 13. He passed away from kidney disease. Actually, we had Make-A-Wish, and one of my wishes and my dreams was to go cross country with him. And the Make-A-Wish was actually making us a Airstream type thing to pull along to go across country to visit national parks. That was mine and my husband's kind of dream, something to do with him. And he passed away a few weeks before that actually came, which is why the trip to Utah became so special to us.
Okay, I
Yeah.
do remember you kind of alluding to that. So Pam's talking about, and I mentioned it a couple of times, the direct sales company where I met her, we had earned a trip to go to Zion and we got to visit the national park and it was very emotional. I knew for her and her husband, but I didn't know that story till just now. So,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that made that trip even more amazing. I still can't believe I earned that trip along with Pam because let me tell you, I used to see Pam's name all over the leadership boards, and it was really cool to be there alongside side her. But that leads me to when you so you're with this jewelry company, and then you came to the next direct sale to the one where we met, or was there something in between?
Technically, yes. So I went from the jewelry company. They closed December 2020. I became an Optavia coach. So I am an integrative nutrition coach. And I was doing Optavia as alongside the end of the jewelry company and the beginning of the leggings company. I kind of had, my hands in all the pots because what I did was I just went with what I loved and I went with what excited me. And I am my brand. Whatever company I work for is not my brand. I am who I am. And I just wanted to help other women realize that, like, you could do this. Like, you could stay
Mhm.
home, add to the family income, support your special needs child or medically challenged child or whatever it is, and still have fun. And it's okay. That was the biggest thing for me. And that's really why I started my journey at the leggings company to really blow up. And I call it All for Jack.
Yes, that was gonna be my next question. I knew you called it All for Jack.
Yeah, All for Jack. I honestly believe that All for Jack started before he passed. I think it did. I don't know why. And anyway, that transition around that time.
Tell us that story, because where did that come from, and how did that get put into play?
Yeah, so All for Jack became, well, when Make-A-Wish stepped into it, we realized that his life was going to be a lot shorter than we imagined. They told us when he was born that in his adolescence years, those would be the years that we would have problems. And of course, as a mother, you just push that aside, push that aside. You do everything you can do medically to make sure that he's getting all of his medical needs. There was a lot of times in his 13 years where we would end up at the hospital because he caught some cold or some flu or whatever at the school. And then he ended up dehydrated, which took a hit to his kidneys, which started a vicious cycle of a lot of medical stuff. So his whole 13 years, I would say half of it we spent in the hospital, which thank God for direct sales because I was able to do Zoom calls and I would lead 6 a.m. power hours from the hospital because I mean, what was I going to do? Sit there in the hospital and stare at him while the nurses took care of him? Like it was an outlet for me. And that's what I really wanted other moms to know. Like whether you have a special needs child or whether you needed to stay home with your children or you wanted to stay home with your children, you can make an income and have a good life. So that's what I did, and I kept going with that. And then when Make a Wish entered the picture and it got clearer to us, we started talking about kidney transplants because he had turned 13. We were talking about kidney transplants and whether we could donate and all these things were going on, and it was very overwhelming. But we were going through the process of okay, we may outlive our son. Like that's huge. We may outlive our son. How how does any woman, like, wrap their head around that at all? And
That's really hard to wrap your head around, because when my mind goes there, it's not a very good place. It's a very dark place.
yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of doctors and nurses and friends that, you need to lean on during that time, and I certainly did, but I also threw myself into the community of my direct sales company, and that's why I created the All for Jack, and I actually said it to Megan, my friend, my upline. I said, "Megan, I need a little thing. I need, like, a little something for Jack, like, I wanna make a little Jack name," and she just blurted out with it, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's beautiful. It's
Perfect.
perfect." And it just became my
Wow.
hashtag and my why and my purpose, and, Courtney really and Megan really helped me to try to there's, like, this thing called 7 layers of why. I don't know if you guys know about this. It's the 7, Finding Your Why by Simon Sinek.
Right,
It
I've read that book, but I don't remember the 7
Yeah,
layers.
so 7 layers, meaning when you go and you talk to somebody about helping them to find their why, you need to go 7 layers deep until you really hit the actual why.
It's almost like a root cause analysis.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Mhm.
and that's how I got to All for Jack, and helping me to find my why and my purpose was for Jack and for the special needs mamas to be able to find their way and find peace and be financially sound through it all.
And I just can't believe we didn't really have deep conversations more, you and
Isn't that
I,
crazy?
because it's really crazy to me because everything you're saying just really is spot on and hits home for me.
I can tell you why. And this is hard for me. I didn't want to be that parent. I didn't want to be the special needs mama. I didn't want to be the one where people said, "Oh, that poor girl." I didn't want people to look at Jack and go, "Oh, what happened to him?" All these things that we you know, as special needs mamas go through. And for me, there was a lot of grief in um camaraderie with other special needs mamas. It made me sad.
I
And
relate to
I didn't
that
want it.
so well.
And so I'm sorry. I feel
Yeah.
actually really deeply sorry that I
No,
didn't connect with you, but that was why.
please don't.
But that was
No,
why.
I think that makes perfect sense, and I please don't apologize for that at all. I think that makes perfect sense. I've said that a couple of times here. When my husband and I first heard of my son's diagnosis, you want to connect to people because they've been through this and so they can help us. If we have questions or whatever, we should go to them. But we found a couple of people we kept in touch with for quite some time, but I was friending everyone on Facebook. I need to know everything.
Right.
And the more I got into it, I was like, this is not me. This is not going to be my life. I can't do this. So we're not really that connected to that particular community anymore because it just wasn't what I wanted to identify with either. Now, as he's getting older, even yesterday I had some questions about something and you're like, oh, I need to go back to a Duchenne mom because I have this specific question. But when you say community, it's the same for me. I want to be around people that bring us joy, people that support my son, people that want to be with us and that make things work out. He's in a wheelchair, but they don't care. Like that's the type of community that I long for. So even saying to you that we have things in common, it's more than just this special need connection. It's this outlook on life.
Absolutely.
We're ha-
Absolutely.
we're, we're connected and we're going to remain connected. So
And it's interesting you just said that to me. One of the things that I really want to touch on here, which is so important for other medical mamas, special needs mamas like us, is that something I learned after he passed was the problem isn't the problem. The problem is how you see the problem. And
oh, I like that.
wow.
I need to write that down.
Yeah, that was actually a
Yeah.
book by Lisa. Oh my goodness, I'll get to her last name. She wrote a quick little book, but she was part of it was a leadership training that I had done, and it went deep, deep, deep into our personal backgrounds and lives, and it helped to transform me. It was like 5 years of counseling in 5 months. But I went through that. But to me, that is what I want other women to know, that you could have all the problems in the world, but if you let the problems affect you in a way that causes anxiety and stress and upset and upheaval in your personal, how you feel in your relationships, and that leads to just depression and weight gain and bad relationships and divorce and if family dynamics, it just leads to so much. And when Jack passed, that's where I was. So Jack passed in June of 22, and for 2 years, thank God I had that community from that company, because one thing I didn't need was more friends. Let's face it. I'm like, I got a lot of friends. I don't
Yeah,
need
you
more
can tell your
friends.
personality. Yeah, you, you have a
You
lot of
know,
friends.
but to me, the community was unlike any other, and I needed them. And some of them needed me, and that was amazing. I felt that need, I felt that love, and they pulled me up and got me off the couch, and I went from being depressed and overweight and lethargic and sad every single day to getting up and really dealing with my feelings, and that's where the problem isn't. It's how you see the problem. And so how you look at that outlook in your life and how you look at that problem is what will lead you into the next chapter of your life. And that's kind of where I am. Um
That's beautiful.
and and my all for Jack has transformed. And
Yeah, keep going. I wanna hear about it.
okay, good. So my all for Jack has transformed into wanting to help other special needs mamas know that they can, have a life and financially be stable and have a relationship, to special needs mamas that are ready to make the next shift, that are ready to go a new route. Like if you're stuck in your depression and you know the problem, and seeing the problem for what the problem is, then you're not ready, right? And something is going to have to get you ready to go to that next step so that you can live your life to the fullest, so that you can create goals, so that you can create dreams and have hope for you and your family and your child. And more focused, even lost moms, is so lost moms is something that I've really been diving deep into, that I feel like I want to help that mom that has already lost their child, that is already at rock bottom, that is waiting, that needs help, that I need to reach in there and pull them out. And I just want to help them and guide them towards healing and towards self-care and towards purpose-driven income. And that has become my goal, that there is life and joy after grief and loss. And I want to help them to nurture their mind and their body and their spirit, and I want to get them there. And that has become my new all for Jack. Or just can't I can't say new, but my transitioned all for Jack. And so I'm finding this passion and it lights me up. And I'm no longer sad where I was crying before, talking about why I didn't reach out and talk to special needs moms. I found this new excitement about helping the moms that are in the loss. Whether it's a mental loss or whether it's an actual loss, it's still a loss. Like, remember, I felt that loss and I went through that journey of loss when Jack was born. So it could be that. So anyway, it so excites me.
Passion is just exuding from your words. You can just tell, and that is amazing
Mhm.
that you are taking all of your experiences and dedicating yourself to serving and helping others. It doesn't surprise me in the least from what I was able to briefly see, but I think that's wonderful, and it's what you were made to do.
Oh, thank you. So excited.
I love that. So now you're in a new company,
Uh-huh.
relatively newer company.
Mhm.
So are you taking that to your direct sales business? Is that
Mhm.
how it's connected still?
So, remember way back I said that I am my brand, right? And so the products that I represent, or it doesn't really matter as long as they are healing and they help. And I'm using those tools with those direct sales companies and with those brands to help women as it helped me. So, the one of them is skincare. With Riemann, and the other one is Amare with Happy Juice, because I do have to say I started Happy Juice about a year ago, and that was one of the things that literally helped me to go to that next level, where I'm getting my hormones corrected, my gut health is corrected, and it all relates to your brain health. So Happy Juice was something for me that just really helped me. It might not help everyone, but it's a path and it's an idea and it's something that I can help these mamas with. So through wellness and through nutrition with that company, I'm doing that, and they can choose to use it or not. But also with skincare and beauty and feeling good from the inside out. There's so much to be said. And part of the skincare company also has collagen, and that helps with your gut health and everything else as well. But feeling good with good skincare and waking up in the morning and washing your face and getting ready for the day, it sets a tone, it sets a bar, right? I could sit in my pajamas and my
Mhm.
sweatpants every single day. But if I get up and I wash my face, that book, Girl, Wash Your Face? I haven't read that yet, but I really need to. Get that glow on. Like I have no makeup on. I know they can't see me, but I have no makeup on except mascara. So like my face feels good. I feel younger, and I just that drives you to want to do more. So I think beauty and wellness is really the key to mindset, and that's where this all stems from.
You're so right. If I wake up in the morning, my younger son is in high school and it's 6 a.m. Oh, it's way too early for me. And when it was, I'm in Michigan, so it's really dark in the morning in the winter. And I would just leave my pajamas on and drive him to school. And he's like, Mom, you have got to put clothes on. Get out of your pajama pants. And it
Hey,
makes
the
a
kids
big
can do it. Why
difference.
can't we?
I know. And it makes such a difference. I'm like, you're so right. Like, just change, just put your clothes on, just wash your face. Just like it really does make a difference for your day, for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that go hand in hand with that how you see the problem. Because your problems certainly are a lot less when you're in your day doing the do, and getting things done. Or listen, don't get me wrong. There are days where I still could because again, grief is forever, right? Like when you lose a child, it's forever. And so my journey is just changing and evolving. It's not going to ever go away. And one of my biggest things that I want women to really really feel is that give them permission to find joy
Oh,
because
do you know how many
oh,
things I'm writing down over here?
ah, that is something that has been so important to me that I truly believe this, that joy can coexist, okay? Because you're honoring their memory. And that means living fully with peace and purpose. And so they can
I love
coexist.
that.
You can be
I
happy
love that.
and still mourn. It doesn't mean that you're forgetting them. You can have that loss and that grief in your life and still find your purpose and your passion. And for me, I want them to find the possibilities of what's out there.
Speaking though of families, I mean, family, you have your husband. So how is he with this evolution? It seems like you guys support one another very well. Is that still the case?
Absolutely. When Jack passed, did he want me to go back to my full-time career because he thought it was just that easy for me to do that? Of course he did, in typical man fashion. Why don't you just go back to the career that made you so much money? Well, I didn't have the purpose or the passion or the desire to go back to that said career or the mindset. So that is a little bit of there's a little bit of a financial struggle with that and the transition into this, but he is 100% supportive of me. Like I want to coach women. I want to help women. I want to introduce them to these companies if they choose that, or just give them one-on-one coaching and group environments. And by the way, I didn't even mention it. We're going to have an All for Jack retreat, two of them in the summer. So, I mean, like, what? One of them's gonna be on the beach, and the other one's gonna be on a marina in Mystic, Connecticut. And he is so supportive of those. He was like, "Oh, that's really kinda cool, actually."
That
Like,
is
so he didn't see the
amazing.
light when I wanted to do coaching and all the other stuff, the work part. But when it came to the retreats, he was like, "What? That sounds cool. Can I come?"
The sky's the limit. I love that you're open and you're like, we're just gonna do these things. And the passion that you are exuding, oh, it just warms me. I'm so excited for you. And I'm gonna be so excited to continue following you and seeing all of this stuff. You can just tell this is your purpose. God has put this into your heart and soul. And I just see Jack through it all. He's right there with his mama through it all. And I just think it's beautiful. And I couldn't be a bigger cheerleader over here in Michigan for you. So this is wonderful, wonderful.
Oh my god, thank you. You made me cry again.
And you've mentioned Courtney a couple times. We did have Courtney as a guest, and she is just such a special person. Thank you for bringing her up because, again, it was important for the two of you to meet. That's for sure.
Oh, she was very, very important in my life, very important. Yeah, and more than just as a coach, just as an amazing friend.
That's wonderful because, yeah, she shared some great perspective with our listeners as well. So I'm
Mm.
pretty excited I had both of you on. That's a
No!
huge win for me.
Aw, thank you.
So, yeah, of course. Oh, so okay. Generally, and I kind of jumped the gun on a lot of things with this particular episode, but generally I'll say like, what have you learned and what's your perspective? But you really did share quite a bit of that throughout this whole discussion. But I will give you the opportunity. What else would you like to share with our listeners before we finish off here?
Um, There is one thing that I think I found in my journey of giving myself grace through the whole thing, trying to find the new purpose and passion within me and digging deep and all of that. Through that, one thing that I want to make sure that I tell others is that don't wait. Don't live your life always responding to things. Be proactive instead of being reactive. Because I spent so much of my life, those first 15 years with that bad relationship. Sure, I traveled, I had fun, whatever, but I was just letting life happen instead of taking life by the horns and saying, what do I want out of this life? And I think until you're in your 30s, you don't really know, right? But in hindsight, in my 40s, in my late 30s, trying to have children, it was late. I was reactive. And now we're trying to get pregnant. And my husband was very reactive. Like we would have never gotten pregnant if I hadn't been like, let's go. And even having another child, there's lots of regrets, but they can be avoided by being more proactive in your life and sort of looking at those problems first. The problem is not the problem, it's how you see the problem. Get to that first so that then you can find your journey and be proactive in your life moving forward. That is my one takeaway that I want people to have from now, because you just don't know how your life could have been different if you are more proactive in your dreams and your goals. That's my biggest thing.
That is really good advice. And every time I talk to somebody on this podcast, I learn something new, but no one has really said it like that. So I think that that is really something that our listeners need to hold on to. And we talk a lot about being an advocate and going after your dreams and your goals. But yeah, this proactive versus reactive is very important. And it's definitely something that I can learn from too. You can teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes, yes, you can.
Yes.
And just knowing
Well,
these things and bringing them up to the forefront of your brain, knowing them about you, like dig deeper into yourself, and that's one thing I've always said
mhm.
about direct sales. It's self-development with a paycheck. Like
Yes, that's very
find
true.
whatever it is that lights you up, find that now. Like don't wait until you meet your goals. Find what lights you up now, so that you can dig deep into why that lights you up, so that you can then plan your life in a way that meets your goals. Somebody said this to me once too. When you have a goal, when you have a dream, instead of working towards that goal and that dream, work from that dream. So dream big now, hone in on what that dream actually looks like. And Courtney talks a lot about this. Like, if your dream is going to Greece in 2025, where are you going to stay? How much is it going to cost? What time of year do you want to go? How many days are you going to go? The whole thing, plan it out. But big life dreams, like, where do you want your life to be 10 years from now, or even 3 years from now? You can do. Where do you want your life to be 3 years from now? What does it look like? And then always carry that vision with you and work from it instead of working towards it. Huge.
Wow, that is really good perspective. Yeah, mic
My
drop. That is great. Well, I support the whole coaching thing because I could sit here and talk to you all day and fill my notebook with notes and learn. So yeah, I think that's wonderful. And because you have such specific purpose and passion, there's a lot of people that you can help. And again, the sky is the limit. So rooting for you. And I just can't wait to follow and see all this continue to grow into fruition and having like actual meetups. Oh,
Mm,
it's going to be amazing. This,
mm.
this is just wonderful and such a positive outcome from all that you've gone through. So yeah, I like to make sure I don't take up all of our guests' time, but
No, we're good.
I just thank you so much for all that you shared. And again, if there's anything that you want to promote or share before we sign off, please do.
Just follow me on Instagram from grieving to glowing. That's my
Love
new
that. And
Instagram handle is from grieving to glowing.
from grieving to glowing. Okay. And I will make sure I put that in the show notes and as well as some of the quotes and books that you shared too.
Oh, awesome.
So wonderful. Thank you so much. I know we've gone back and forth trying to make sure we got you on, but this was a story we all needed to hear, and I really appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable, and
Yeah.
that's what this show is all about, just
Yeah.
being real and putting it all out there and having these conversations. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for being on, Pam. It was such
Yay.
an honor.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrea. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for the Show Me the Way podcast. We truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. We hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a little motivation. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.